Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sweet Star Candle YouTube channel, and today I wanted to make a mega compilation of all of my wax melts I did over this summer. Also, I want to let you guys know I'm running a sale on my website on sweetstarcandles.com. I've got sparkling candles and wax melts over there, perfect for any season. Now let's get back to the video. And today we're going to be making a cottagecore inspired red mushroom wax melt. So for step one, I would get a small amount of white wax. This is from a previous project, but I would just fill about 1 or 2 centimeters of wax melt wax on the bottom. I'm going to get this melting on my electric hot plate. And as my wax melt wax is melting, I'm going to add 1/64 teaspoon of mica powder. So this white wax is going to be our little white circles, and then we're going to use some red wax, and that's going to be our background. So now that my white wax has become liquid, I'm going to let it cool down just a little bit, and then I'm going to use my pipette and pipe it into my clamshell. So I'm basically just going to take my white wax and stick my pipette, get some wax into my pipette, then add little circles into my clamshell. I'm going to let my white wax solidify, and I will be right back. So my next step is going to be measuring out 5.4 ounces of wax melt wax. And this is going to be our red layer. I'm going to place this on my electric hot plate and get it melting. To my wax, I'm going to add 1/64 teaspoon of mica powder. I'm also going to add 1 drop liquid red candle dye. When your wax hits 200 degrees Fahrenheit, you can add whatever fragrance oil you want to. And after you've added your fragrance oil, just let the wax cool to about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. So my red wax has reached 160 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to pour into my clamshell. I'm going to let my wax melt solidify, and I will be right back. So my wax melt has solidified. I'm going to pop it out of the clamshell. Thank you everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'll have a link below to all of the products I used. And you can also check out my website where I sell candles and wax melts. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. And today we're going to be making a lemon inspired wax melt. So for step 1, I'm going to be measuring out just a small amount of wax, and this is going to be our white seeds in our wax melt. So I've got some leftover white wax from our previous project. I'm just going to add that into my pitcher. And if you don't have extra white wax, you can just measure about 2 centimeters of white wax into the bottom of our pitcher, and we're going to get this melting. So to my white wax, I'm going to add 1/64 teaspoon of mica powder. And I'll have a link down below to all the products I use. I'll have this electric hot plate, the metal pitcher, the mica powder I use. It'll all be listed down below if you're interested in recreating this wax melt. So I'm just going to let my white wax melt. I'm going to get my teardrop shaped mold set up and ready, so when our white wax is melted, I can go ahead and pour it in. So here's my mold. I got it off Amazon, and as you can see, there's like raindrops and clouds and hearts, and I love using this mold because you can use it in so many different varieties because the bottom is flat. So I've used these teardrop shapes for a watermelon wax melt I've done before. I'll have a link down below to that if you're interested. But I use these clouds and these hearts I've also done in another video. So this is a great mold for very versatile wax melts. So my white wax has completely melted. I'm going to let it cool just a little bit, and then I'm going to pour into my mold. So my wax is about 180 degrees, so it's good to pour into this mold. This mold is pretty heat resistant, so it won't melt or anything. So I'm going to pour into my teardrop shapes. I'm going to let my little seeds solidify, and I will be right back. So I let the seeds sit overnight so they're really solid, and I'm going to pop them out of the mold. So I found the 6 prettiest ones, and we want the ones that are the flattest and clearest on the bottom, so the part that was directly in contact with the mold on the bottom. So I got 6 of the best ones, and I'm going to pop them into my clamshell. So to get the lemon slice look I'm going for, I'm going to take my little seeds and I'm going to put the part that was flattest on the bottom. And I'm going to face them all towards the middle of our wax melt. And as you can see with the lower ones, I'm pointing them at a different angle than I was the ones on this side. So these ones will point downwards towards the center. As you can see, I've got them all facing towards the middle of our clamshell. So our next step is going to be measuring out our yellow. I'm going to get my scale zeroed out, and I'm going to measure out 5.4 ounces of wax melt wax. I'm going to take our wax and I'm going to put it on my electric hot plate. So my next step is going to be adding 1/64 teaspoon of mica powder. And I'm also going to add 2 drops of liquid yellow candle dye. So when your wax reaches 200 degrees Fahrenheit and is fully liquid, you can add your fragrance oil. I have a link down below to a fragrance oil that I think will be great for these. So I'm going to take my wax off the heat. So I'm going to wait until my wax reaches 160 degrees Fahrenheit before I pour into my clamshell. So my wax has reached 160 degrees Fahrenheit and I'm going to pour it into my clamshell. I'm going to let my wax melt solidify and I will be right back. So let the wax melt fully solidify and I'm going to pop it out of the clamshell. And today we're going to be making a Dubai chocolate bar inspired wax melt. So for step 1, I'm going to measure out about 2 centimeters of wax into each of these pitchers. One is going to be yellow and one is going to be green. You can pick whatever colors you want, but this is going to be the drizzle on top of our chocolate bar. So this one on the right is going to be my yellow color. So I'm going to add 1 drop of liquid yellow candle dye. And the one on the left is going to be my green color. So I'm going to add 1 drop of yellow to that. And I'm also going to add 1 drop of blue. I'm also going to add some mica powder, so our wax melt will sparkle. I'll link down below going to these candle dyes as well as this mica powder. And I'm going to take, this is a 1/64 teaspoon measuring spoon, so I'm going to add about half of this to each one of these. So while my yellow and green wax are melting, I'm going to get my clamshell ready. These are the extra large clamshells from Aztec Candle Supply. They're about double the size of normal wax melts, and this allows us to add a lot more detail to the bottom of the clamshell where we would see the design. I'm also going to grab 2 pipettes, one for the yellow and one for the green, so we can pipette our design on the bottom of our clamshell. So my green wax has fully melted and I'm going to take my pipette and just draw the little lines on the bottom of the clamshell. So my yellow wax fully melted. I'm also going to drizzle this onto the bottom. I'm going to let this fully cool down and then we can start on our chocolate. So my yellow and green wax has fully solidified and I'm going to start making my brown wax. So for my brown wax, I'm going to need 5.4 ounces of wax melt wax. I'm going to get this melting. To this wax, I'm going to add 2 drops brown liquid candle dye. I'm also going to add 1/64 teaspoon of mica powder. So while my brown is melting, I'm actually going to add a little bit more mica powder to my clamshell. This is Grasshopper by Mad Micas. And I'm just going to add this so we have a little bit more color. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit into each of the cells of the clamshell. So once our brown wax has reached 200 degrees Fahrenheit, feel free to add any fragrance oil you want. I have a fragrance oil pop up right now that I think would be great for these, and I'll also have it linked down below. I'm going to let this cool to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it's ready to pour into the clamshell. So my brown wax has reached 160 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to pour over my pretty colors. I'm going to let my wax melt solidify, and I'll be right back. I'll let my wax melt sit overnight, and I'm going to pop it out of the clamshell. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sweet Star Candle YouTube channel, and today we're going to be making a cow print inspired wax melt. So for step 1, we're going to fill the bottom of a pitcher with just a small amount of our wax melt beads. Once you've got a little bit on the bottom, we can place it on our melter and get that melting. So while our black wax is melting, I'm going to measure out 5 ounces of wax melt wax in a different pitcher. So while our black is melting, I'm going to add 3 drops of black candle dye. And then I'm going to add 1/64 teaspoon of mica powder. So my black wax is now melted and it's ready to go in the clamshell, and I'm basically just going to swap the black for the white wax. So I'm basically just going to use my pipette and put our black and make it look like a cow print. I'm basically just trying to get little splotches of color. happy with that look, how that looks, and I'm just going to let that solidify while our white wax melts. I think I'm going to add another 1/64 teaspoon of mica powder to our white wax. And I'll have a link below to all the products that I use. So my white wax has got to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to add some fragrance oil. Today I'm using some Sunshine Passion Fruit from Aztec Candle Supply, but you can use whatever fragrance oil you want. I'm going to use a little less than half of this, so this is 1 ounce. So once my fragrance oil has been mixed in, I'm going to let the wax sit until it reaches 160 degrees Fahrenheit. So my white wax has reached 160 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to pour into my clamshell. I'm going to let this solidify, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've let my wax melt solidify, and if you added fragrance oil like I did, make sure you wait 2 weeks before melting. So here's what it looks like. I think it's such a cool design, and it's so easy to do. Just going to get this popped out of the clamshell. So our first step is going to be measuring out 2.7 ounces of our wax melt wax, and this is going to be our top and bottom layers, and this is going to be our graham cracker. I'm going to transfer our wax melt wax and put it on my electric hot plate. So to this wax, I'm going to be adding 1/64 teaspoon of mica powder. I'm going to add 1 drop orange liquid candle dye, and I'll have a link below to all the products that I use, since most of my candle dyes are covered in dye. But we're just going to add 1 drop of orange liquid candle dye. Next, I'm going to add 1 drop brown liquid candle dye. So my wax has reached 200 degrees Fahrenheit and I'm going to take it off the heat. So we can add some fragrance oil to this, and I'll have a link below to a fragrance oil that I think would be great for these wax melts. While this is cooling down to 160 degrees after you've mixed in your fragrance oil, I'm going to prepare my clamshell. So my brown wax has reached 160 degrees Fahrenheit and I'm going to pour into the clamshell. Now don't use all of what we've made. We're just going to fill in a little bit on each of the cells on our clamshell, but we're going to need the rest of it for our top layer. So just use about half of it. I'm going to let this first layer solidify and I'll be right back. So now that my brown wax has solidified just a little bit, I'm actually going to take a plastic fork and I'm going to make little holes inside of it so it looks more like a graham cracker. So now that we've got the bottom layer of our graham cracker, I'm going to measure out 1.08 ounces, and this is going to be our chocolate layer. So I'm going to transfer our 1.8 ounces. If you put 1.10 like I did, that's okay. We can always use extra wax. I'm going to put that on my electric hot plate. While our chocolate wax is melting, I'm going to add 1/2 of 1/64 teaspoon of mica powder. I'm also going to add 1 drop brown liquid candle dye. So once our brown has become liquid and it reaches 200 degrees Fahrenheit, you can add fragrance oil. You don't have to on this layer because it's going to be the smallest layer of our s'more. So I'm going to take this off the melter and I'm going to wait until it cools to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. So now that my wax has cooled down to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm going to pour into each of the cells, trying to avoid these middle lines. If your wax has solidified like mine has, just hit it with the heat gun and you'll be able to get some more. So once our brown has solidified, we are ready to start preparing our white layer. So for this layer, we're going to need 1.62 ounces of wax. And it's okay if your scale does what mine does. It's okay to have a little bit extra, but we want this layer to look pretty thick because this is going to be our marshmallow. So now that I have my white wax measured out, I'm going to put it on my electric heater. While my white wax is on the melter, I'm going to be adding mica powder one more time. I'm going to add 1/64 teaspoon of mica powder. So now that our wax has reached 200 degrees Fahrenheit, if you want to add fragrance oil, so now that my white wax has reached 160 degrees Fahrenheit, you can pour into the clamshell. So while our white wax solidifies, we're going to get our original picture of light brown and put it back on our melter. So now that our graham cracker color wax has reached 160 degrees again, we're going to fill in completely the top layer of our wax melt. I'm going to let this layer solidify and our wax melt will be ready to unmold. So I've let my wax melt solidify and I'm ready to take it out. And you'll see probably on yours as well, it looks really messy right now on this end, but we're going to clean that up. We're just going to take our fork again and just kind of reiterate the lines we already made and then just kind of dust off any wax that comes off. I basically just took a rag and kind of just all the little debris spots. I accidentally cracked it when I was doing that, but if you want to, you can repeat the same things on this other side, but I'm not going to. And if yours is still a little messy like mine is, I'm actually going to hit it with the heat gun and slightly melt the top a little bit. So I think that looks a lot better. As you can see, when we melted the top a little bit, it makes it more rounded. Today we're going to be making some miniature cookies to go in a miniature jar. So for step one, we're going to be seeing if our miniature cookies will be able to fit in our jar. So this is a jar from Cracker Barrel, but you can use, I know there's some miniature maraschino cherry jars and stuff like that. So just find a little jar. And the reason you want to do this beforehand is so that when we make the wax melts, we know they're going to fit in our container. Let's see. Perfect. Thank you guys for watching. Of course, I'm just kidding, but now we know. So this jar will work. So now we're going to make our miniature cookie mold. So I'm going to cut our plastic cup and I'm going to cut it towards the bottom. The lower the better. But we still need it high enough so that we're able to pop the mold out. So that height is the perfect height. So now I'm going to get my composite mold. I've used this in another video and it works great. So I'm going to pop this into the microwave at 30-second intervals until it's melted. And while we're doing that, I'm going to put our Cookie Crisp little cookies. I'm going to put them into the bottom of our plastic cup, trying to keep them sort of separated from each other. Here we go. The more you add in here at one time, the quicker it's going to be when we actually make our miniature cookie wax melts. So I've got my composite mold melted and I'm going to wait until it cools to about 150 degrees Fahrenheit. So my composite mold has cooled to 150 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to pour over our cookie crisp. I'm going to let my composite mold actually solidify a little bit, and then we'll be able to push them down and they won't float back up to the surface. So I've let the mold sit overnight, and I'm going to get the pieces of cereal out, and then we can go and make our wax melts. So now that I've got the pieces of cereal out, it left a little bit of residue on the inside. I'm going to gently try to take out the little pieces with a paper towel, or you can pour some excess wax into it, pop it on the mold, and it should take out any food debris with it. So I just have my leftover wax here, and I'm going to use a pipette and gently put the wax into the holes. So I've let this solidify, and I'm going to pop this back out of this. So now that I've got the mold cleaned out to the best I can, as you can see there's a little bit of the black still in there, but I think it's staying in the mold because when I poured in the pink wax, it didn't pick it up. So I think it'll be okay. When we pop out our final product, we can wipe off any of the excess if there is any. So now I'm going to need 2 different pitchers, and I'm going to fill the bottom of both of them up with wax melt wax. So the first thing we're going to do is our black chocolate chips. So I'm going to fill this pitcher up a little bit on the bottom, probably about that much. And then I'm going to color it, and that's going to be our chocolate chips. That's probably too much already, but I want it to be covered on the bottom so it's safer when we melt it. And this amount will also depend on how many small cookies you want to make. Now I would not add fragrance oil to the black because this is not going to be a lot of each of our wax melts. If you want to add fragrance oil, I recommend adding it to our brown color we're going to do in a minute. So to this wax, I'm going to add 1/2 of 1/64 teaspoon of mica powder. I think I need a shirt that says that for how much I say it all the time. But I'm just going to get my small teaspoon, fill up about half of it, and add it to our black. And then I'm going to add 1 drop, actually I might add 2 drops. 2 drops black liquid candle dye. I'm going to add this to our wax. I'll be right back once this has melted. So my black has melted, I'm going to take it off the heater. So I'm going to take a brand new pipette, and I'm going to go into our black wax, and I'm just going to try my best to add small dots of this and try not to put too much black because we don't want the whole top of it to be filled up. take a paper towel quickly and try to soak up some of this wax on the inside of these. Okay, I'm going to let that completely solidify and I'll be right back. So now that that's solidified, you can go in if you want to and take out more black pieces. I did, so it's not as many. But we just want some general chocolate chips in there. Now I'm going to leave the black. I'm not going to clean out this pitcher. I'm going to get a brand new pitcher because we're going to go back and use more black when we need to make more cookies. So I'm going to get a brand new pitcher. And I'm going to fill this up with a little bit more wax melt wax than I did the black. This time I think I'm going to fill it up about a whole inch. About that much. Into this wax I'm going to add 1 drop brown liquid candle dye. And if you want darker cookies you can add a drop of black or you can add more brown. And I'm also going to add 1/64 teaspoon of mica powder. And once our brown wax has reached 200 degrees Fahrenheit, you can add some fragrance oil. I'll have an image that pops up right now. This is a fragrance oil that I think would be great for these. I'll also have it linked below in the description. And if you go down below as well, you will see some links to go to Amazon, pipettes, and the pitchers I use, and the mixing spoons and all that kind of stuff. So those links will be down below. So I'm going to take my brown off the heat. I'm going to let it cool down to about 180. So I'm going to get a brand new pipette and I'm going to pipette our brown into our mold. I'm going to let this solidify and I'll be right back. So these have solidified and I'm going to pop them out of our mold. And if you want to, if yours is like mine on the top where it has a little ridge, you can just cut that off with a pair of scissors. Here they are. I think they turned out really well. And if you want more to fill up your jar, just repeat what we've already done and I'll be right back. So now our final step is to assemble our jar. So I've got my little jar and I've got my pile of little cookies that we've made. And I'm just going to put them in there. Now, I think these would be really cute as a little gift for somebody. That's how it looks. And today we're going to be making a beach themed wax melt. So for step 1, this is going to be an optional step. If you have any kind of figurines that resemble sea creatures or beach creatures, I happen to have a little pelican and I wanted to make a mold of it so I can put him on the sand on our beach. But you can just use any creature you have, and if you don't have any, that's okay too. You can just skip to the time I'm putting up on screen, and this will take you right to the beginning of the tutorial. So my first step is going to be cutting the bottom of my cup, about that far. So then we'll put our pelican inside, and we will be making our composite mold. So here's my composite mold. I always use this if I'm doing molds, and especially if it's something that I don't already have in my mold collection. I can make a mold out of anything like this pelican. So I'm going to put this into the microwave for 30-second intervals, and I'll be right back. So my composite mold is melted, and I'm going to wait until it hits about 150 degrees before I pour into our cup. So my composite mold has cooled, and I'm going to pour over top of our pelican. I'm going to let the composite mold sit for a couple hours or overnight, and I'll be right back. So I've let this solidify for a couple hours, and I'm going to take my little pelican out of our mold. So I melted down some wax from a previous project. I've just got a light brown color for my pelican, but you can choose whatever color you want for your mold. Just make sure that you let it cool to around 160 degrees before you pour into your composite mold. I'm going to let this guy solidify, and I'll be right back. So my pelican has solidified, and I'm going to gently take him out of the mold. So I'm just going to trim him up and make it look a little nicer. So there he is, and now we can get started on our beach wax melt. So for step one, we're going to be getting a picture for the white wax. This is going to be the little streaks that you see when the waves are going onto the beach. They're like the white little bubbles and ripples. So we just need a little bit of wax for our white. So I'm going to take my 0.65 ounces of white wax, and I'm going to put it onto my electric hot plate. While my white wax is melting, I'm going to get my extra large clamshell from Aztec Candle Supply. I'm just going to set it to the side so when our white wax is melted, we can put in our white streaks. And you can't forget to add some mica powder. So I'm going to use probably less than half of a teaspoon of mica powder. So this is a 1/64 teaspoon, so I'm just going to use about half of this. You have to make it sparkly every time. So my white wax is completely melted. I'm going to take it off the heat. So once my white wax is cooled to about 160 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm going to take a popsicle stick. I'm going to add some lines in between the cell of the clamshell and the top of this right here. Sorry, right here, and then in the tops of these. And if you want it to be more circular patterns, I would use a pipette, but I want mine to be more of the lines. Just make sure when you're putting in the white that you don't cover at the bottom too much, because we kind of want it to be on the surface of the water and our sand. And I've got a pretty good amount in there. I'm going to move it around and take off some of the excess. So I want to be able to see the bottom. I'm going to bring you guys in for a close-up. So here's how mine looks. I wanted it to look kind of realistic. So there's little clumps of white here and there. So this line is going to be where our water meets our sand. So I'm going to set my white pitcher that still has the white in it. We're going to keep this and use this later. But now we're going to measure out our sand and our water. So for the water, I'm going to measure out 3.3 ounces of wax melt wax. I'm going to move my blue over to the side, and I'm going to get another pitcher that's not our white or our blue. So for the sand, I'm going to measure out 2.1 ounces of wax melt wax, and this is going to be our sand color. So I'm going to get these melting. I'm going to add 1/64 teaspoon of mica powder to both the blue wax and the sand wax. I actually just ordered some brand new mica powder to try out, so I'll have a video hopefully coming soon to show you guys those. I'm really excited because I mostly use silver. It basically just reflects whatever wax color you have, but I got some new colors, so that will be pretty exciting. And then as for the color of our wax, so for our blue water, I'm going to add 1 drop blue. Now if you want it to look more like a lagoon, like turquoise, blue and green mixed together, just add blue and green, but I want mine to look really bright light blue. So I'm going to add 1 drop of blue to my water wax. And then for my sand wax, I'm going to add 1 drop brown liquid candle dye and 1 drop orange liquid candle dye. I'm going to get these melted and I'll be right back. So my brown wax melted before my blue wax. Once your brown wax has reached 200 degrees Fahrenheit, you can add some fragrance oil. I'll have a link below to a fragrance oil that I think would be great for these wax melts. But once you've added the fragrance oil and mix it in thoroughly, let your wax cool to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. So now I'm just waiting on my brown to cool down to pour into my clamshell. So before I pour my brown, my blue wax melted completely, so I took that off the heater. And now I'm going to pour my brown wax. It's reached 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to pour into these top 2 sections. And we're going to keep a little bit in the bottom of our pitcher because we're going to go back and use some more in a minute. Once I start pouring, you'll see what I mean. I filled it up basically to where the line is, where it would pour over to the other cells. So I just poured it up to that point and I quit pouring. And now I've got my blue sitting over here. You can add fragrance oil to that as well. Mix it in thoroughly once it hits 200 degrees. Once it's mixed, let it cool to 160 degrees. And then we're going to do the same thing with the blue, filling it up to right where the top line is. So here's what the blue looks like. So my blue wax has cooled to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to pour into these 4 cells. There should be a little bit of blue left over. Keep that in your pitcher. So our next step is going to be adding our brown and white pitchers back onto the heater. This is just because if they solidified any, we want to get them back into liquid form. So I've got both my waxes off the melter, and I'm going to wait until they reach 160 degrees again, but this time we're going to be pouring both of them, so they both need to be under 160 at the same time. So now that they're both 160 degrees or less, I'm going to pour my blue from this side, and I'm going to pour my brown from this side, and they're going to collide somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to let this solidify and I will be right back. So I've let the wax melt fully solidify, and I'm going to pop it out of the clamshell. And I'm going to use my heat gun again to make the waves go more towards the sand. And now that our wax is sort of melted, I'm going to add my pelican onto the sand. I broke him. I'll use some wax to put him back together. I'm also going to melt down some of the white that I poured on the other side. I'm going to put it on this side as well. So I made a new pelican. I keep trying to stick him standing up like that, but I think I'm just gonna have to lay him on his side. He's taking a nap. But this is the one side that we did. Adding the white afterwards makes a really big difference. And adding the white on this side helped a lot. I personally like this side better. It's sort of hard to do on the bottom, adding white. If I did it again, I would use my pipette, and I would pipette a lot more white instead of using the popsicle stick, because I just don't think it added enough white to it. So I'd probably fill up right there, all with white. So that's our beach wax melt. Now I'm gonna snap it for you guys. Thank you everyone for watching this video. If you enjoy, please give the video a big thumbs up and subscribe. I've got a lot more fall videos coming out in the next couple months, and I'll also be doing a fall compilation in the next month. Also just want to remind you guys again about my fall sale going on. It ends tomorrow at 11:59, so go check that out if you're interested in some sparkling candles and wax melts for the fall and winter seasons. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow.